What's good, everyone? This is your host, Tarod McKnight, and you are now tuned into Tarodcast. For all of the brand new listeners out there listening to our show for the very first time, welcome. And for all of the returning listeners out there coming back for another weekly dose of Tarodcast spiciness, welcome back. Now at Tarodcast, you can take everything we say with a grain of salt. We simply just want to add some flavor to your meal. So if we are doing that, then we are doing our job. Today's topic is actually a topic that deals with a certain type of relationship, and it's the kind of relationship that a lot of people think that they're ready for, but they're really not, because it involves a lot more introspection and understanding of self. And so without further ado, today's episode topic is the sweet and sour of polyamory sauce. This is Tarodcast. Let's get it. All right, y'all. Welcome back to Tarodcast. Again, I'm your host, Tarod McKnight, and I thought I was a little bit clever coming up with that episode title today. I really did. I thought I was a little bit clever because I was like, oh yeah, I used to work at Chick-fil-A and everybody loved Polynesian sauce and it was sweet and sour sauce. And I was like, you know what? The sweet and sour of polyamory sauce. Let's try that out. But anyway, I appreciate y'all for listening. Welcome to Tarodcast. I'm glad that you're here. And we're going to be tackling this subject. We actually received quite a few people who wanted us to talk about this. And so I'm actually really excited to just give my take on polyamorous relationships and just to share with you all what I've learned and what I've observed and, just how they weigh up against, a lot of the traditional relationships that we are all aware of. And so before we get into that, we're going to go ahead and take care of our housekeeping duties and then we'll get into the topic. So if you would like to take our show with you on the go, just know that we are on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Podchaser, Castbox, Podcast Addict, iHeartRadio, Deezer, and YouTube. Tarodcast is on Throne. Throne is a free live messaging application that allows us here at Tarodcast to exclusively reach our listeners. Make sure to sign up if you'd like to keep the conversations going after the episode. If you're looking for natural oils for ultimate hydration and care for your hair and skin, hit up The Resilient Lotus at www.theresilientlotus.com. Also, if you are a lover of authentic chunky salsas and also wonderful birria tacos, make sure to reach out to Morenitas Salsitas and place your orders at www.CRTN-T.com/Morenitas-Salsitas. And last but not least, if you are in the market for an affordable graphic designer to create your next logo, flyer, album cover, or animated video, check out at Rose Graphism on Instagram. As always, this information will be in our episode notes. All right, y'all. So we're going to be talking about polyamory. So first, let's just define polyamory, and we're going to use the definition from what the Oxford Dictionary has provided to us today. So polyamory is the practice of engaging in multiple romantic and typically sexual relationships with the consent of all people involved. Now, let's talk about this, because whenever, especially coming from the traditional sense, and I want to preface this entire podcast by saying this. From my perspective, I'm going to be talking about the relationships between a man and a woman. And so if you are not in a relationship with someone who is of the opposite sex, I invite you to plug and play your relationship where, I plug and play this one here. So that way, we're all on the same page. And so, but yeah, I just wanted to just go ahead and get that out the way, because for me, I am someone who is in a relationship with a woman. And so that is the standpoint from where I'm going to be speaking of relationships, especially romantic ones. So with that being said, let's go ahead and continue. So a lot of the traditional relationships that we are aware of, we see over time that a lot of them, they evolve into expectational or transactional relationships, meaning that, if you are the man in the relationship, you are expected to be the leader. You are expected to be the voice. You are expected to be the breadwinner. And if you are the woman, you are expected to be the mother. You are expected to be the helpmate. You are expected to be the housekeeper and the rearer of children and the provider of food. There are a lot of roles that a lot of us in traditional relationships, expect one another to fulfill as we're in these relationships. And, for some people, that works. There are other people who believe themselves to be more and wish that they could do more. And so, just being reduced down to that expectation typically is not going to provide them with happiness. And so one of the things that a lot of people do, especially when they feel like they are becoming nothing but an expectation, is they cheat. A lot of people, they don't feel like they're being seen or they're being heard in the way that they need to by their partner. And so they go out and they look for another person that they're able to express all of their vulnerability with. They're looking to have that level of comfort, to have that level of understanding, to not just be a expectation to their partner. And so they cheat. They go out and they find someone else who is willing to hear them out or let them be the kind of person that they want to be, or let them do what they want to do, or just provide that safety net and that sense of comfort that for whatever reason they're not getting at home. And so they betray that loyalty because feeling like an expectation is something that it's like, I can't deal with this anymore. So, I'm just going to go find somebody that treats me the way I want to be treated. And it is a breach of communication. It truly is. It's a breach of communication, and it's a breach of loyalty, a breach of trust, all of that. And so, many relationships, again, when I think about this, a lot of people, but they believe when they think about polyamorous relationships, they perceive it to be selfish. Or that being with someone else who is not your partner is a sign that their partner isn't good enough, or, just all of the things that are wrapped up in the way that we experience one another in relationships, all the emotions and the insecurities that come out because, if somebody steps out of a relationship, and the other person finds out or they bring it to their attention or whatever, it's a lot of, what did I do wrong or what's going on? It's a lot of communication that's not happening. And so a lot of people, especially coming from that level of relationship or that kind of relationship, if they even hear the word polyamorous, they're just like, oh no. There is no way that could ever happen, because if, my husband or my wife was seeing someone else or, making love to someone else, that would break me. But the thing is that, when it comes to polyamorous relationships, it actually goes way, way, way beyond, just the regular basic surface level understanding of relationships and being with one another. It goes beyond and destroys the expectational and transactional type of relationships where, if I do A, B, and C, then I expect, D, E, and F to come right after it, in more ways than one. And so, it goes beyond that, because again, this type of relationship, and we're going to talk about this, it involves the deepest level of communication, the deepest level of trust, the deepest level of loyalty and of understanding of one another. And it just to start, laying out the groundwork here, what we also first have to realize is that we are all visual and emotional creatures. We all see and we all feel, and typically we're guided by these senses. We are. And so, when you enter into a relationship, it's one of the best things ever as far as how you feel. And, it's like you found this person. It's like, oh my God, they get me. They understand me. I'm attracted to them. We have the best sex. Oh my God. Like, we finish each other's sentences, just all kinds of things that really solidify the value of the relationship that we get in. And oftentimes it's because first we see something. Either we see them physically or we see something in that person that invites us to them, that draws us to them. And because we see that, whether we're seeing it with our eyes or we're seeing it with our mind and our heart, these are the things that gravitate us to one another. And these are the things that establish the relationship. And so we are all creatures and we are all creatures who are, we need relationships. We have to have them. And because we have to have them, it becomes who we are. We become creatures of habit that need relationships to thrive and to survive. Being alone can cause a lot of different issues, but going through life or having someone else, being in a relationship, it makes life easier to bear most times. And so, getting into a relationship, getting started, you understand that, these are the things that bring us together. And so because, we're guided by these things, again, there's so many people out here in this world, and none of us, unless you're twins or triplets or something, none of us have the exact same DNA. And so because of that, this means that we are all created in different ways. We all have different traits, different features. We have different things that attract one another, attract ourselves to one another. And because of that, you will find that, you find things in other people that you necessarily weren't even, trying to look for, but you actually find that, oh my God, I like this, or I'm attracted to this, or, this is something that really speaks to me, or this is a person that really speaks to me for whatever reason. And so because of that, there are people out here that, when we see them, when we experience them, we're just going to be attracted to them for whatever reason. And it's just going to happen. That is a fact. That is a fact. And for those who are in relationships, it doesn't mean that it's taking away from anything that you are, because one of the things I've always seen is, men getting in trouble for looking at other women. And again, because there are so many types of women out here, so many types of men out here. We all have different shapes, different features, different traits, all these things. We're not all the same. And so when we see something that we are attracted to, we experience something that we like, I don't think that's a bad thing. Because if anything, in a relationship, it does not mean that your partner is any less valuable because, one person is looking at someone else. It doesn't mean that at all. It's just, oh my God, it's like I discovered something that I'm attracted to and I have to look at it. Now when you start to obsess over it and all that, okay, now that is what, causes the issues and whatnot, and the, miscommunications and the arguments and all the extra stuff, just a lot of that. That's what brings that about. But, again, that's not necessarily what I'm talking about here, but just understanding that, the way that we are able to meet and discover people is because we see them and because we feel them, and we want to establish that type of connection. And so, in order to really understand this, I feel like as people, and this is something that I've even learned even into my adulthood, that you have to be your own perfect 10. Like, you have to be your own perfect 10. It doesn't matter who it is, doesn't matter where you are, you need to be your own perfect 10, because in relationships, one of the things that a lot of people bring to a relationship is insecurity. And because they bring that to a relationship, in a situation like this, especially, for those who stay away from polyamorous relationships, they think that, oh, I might not be good enough, or I might not be pretty enough, or what if somebody, goes for somebody that's more handsome or more prettier than I am, or, what if they have the type of relationship or sex that is something that I can't do or something that I'm not interested in, like what if? And honestly, you have to be confident in who you are as a person, because, just whether it's polyamorous relationships or not, you have to understand that your value is up to you to determine. And so nobody else can do that for you. Only you can. You are the person who determines how valuable you are. And when you are the master of that, then no one else can depreciate that value except for you. So I say that to say this. When you understand that about yourself, then you also understand that you have your own lane. And I've talked about this in another podcast episode before, but you have your own lane. And when you're in a relationship, when you are confident with who you are, and you have that understanding with your partner, you understand that when it comes to the lanes that we all travel in, we're all traveling parallel. We all are. And understanding that you are traveling and when it comes to your partner, they have their own lane running right next to yours. And you will never allow anyone else to merge into the lane that you have carved out in that aspect of their lives. Like when it comes to traveling, it's like, like again, we're all traveling parallel. So when it comes to the lane that your partner is in, you won't allow anybody else to merge or take over that lane that they're driving in. And vice versa. They won't allow anybody else to basically merge into your lane and, and basically, cut you off in that sense, just to use or keep up with the driving metaphor here. And so, when it comes to staying in your lane, understanding your lane, it's like you have to have the confidence to understand who you are and what it is that you want and who it is that you are with, because, understanding that's key. Because you cannot be out here with insecurities that you have yet to reconcile with. Because, when we start getting into the details about polyamory, there's a lot there that I have, witnessed that, it's not for everybody, but there's some beautiful things that can come from it. And so, just understanding that when you honor your lane, you stay in your lane, you value your lane and the lane that your partner is in. You don't let people just cross over into those lanes. You don't seek to replace someone. There's no competition. There's no competition because, again, we're all people. We're all unique. And so just understanding that is key. And understanding that, again, we cannot be everything to one person. We can't. We can't be everything to one person. I've seen, women joke online saying, if my man wants this kind of woman, I'll just put on this kind of wig or, just different things like that. And I get it. It's funny. But at the same time, you are one person and it does not mean that you are less of a person because you cannot be everything. But when it comes to the main things that a person requires from their partner, if you are checking off those boxes, I feel like you are good to go. You're good to go. And so it's like when it comes to the ground level, like foundations of a relationship, if you're able to check those boxes, being open and an open communicator, being vulnerable, being someone who doesn't keep secrets, being able to share, any and everything, being the type of person that sees your partner as, more than expectation. You see them as your best friend and, just things like that, things that allow you to be as open as possible, to communicate in the best way as possible, to leave no room for any miscommunications, establishing those things. That is what really needs to happen. Because again, there are going to be some things that you like. There are going to be some things that your partner likes as well. And sometimes you might not meet in the middle when it comes to those things. But that's okay, because again, you don't necessarily have to be everything to your partner. And it's not a bad thing if you aren't. But when it comes to the things that matters, are you checking off those boxes? Can you check off those boxes? That's what we really need to establish, because in a lot of traditional relationships, again, it becomes transactional. It becomes expectational, where, I'm the man, you're the woman, you do this, I do this, and that's it. And it doesn't get any deeper than that. But yet, those are the same people who, for whatever reason, they're also craving something deeper, and they're going elsewhere as opposed to finding it with their partner and understanding and honoring that, And so I just wanted to, just talk about that first. And so with that being said, we're going to go ahead and take our break. This might be our only break of the show. I don't know. We'll see. Because I kind of just want to go ahead and talk about this. But yeah, so I really wanted to just establish some of these things as far as how we look at a lot of traditional relationships, because when we come back from the break, we'll start really talking more about, polyamory and what we've come to learn, as far as what we've seen and what we observed, witnessed and things like that regarding this type of relationship. So with that being said, y'all, I hope that you all have your water close by. Take a drink and we'll be right back. This is Tarodcast. Yo, what's good, everyone? This is your host of Tarodcast, Tarod Rashan, and I just want to welcome you to the commercial break. Now, you already know what time it is. It's hydration time. Get some high-quality H2O in your system now. Got a few things I'd like to go over. First, to all of our new and returning listeners, thank you so much for your ear and your time. To all of our Patreon supporters, I just want you to know that we are not able to do this without your direct support. So the biggest, dopest Tarodcast thank you goes out to you. If you're listening in and you're thinking about becoming part of the Tarodcast Patreon family, we'd love to have you. You can find us at www.patreon.com/Tarodcast. Now on Patreon, we have 3 tiers of support. A $2 tier, a $3 tier, and lastly, a $6 tier. Each tier comes with its own set of unique perks. So if you find one that fits you, sign up. For us, the main thing is keeping our subscription prices affordable. We know that you work hard for your money, and if you choose to support Tarodcast this way, we truly want to make it worth your time. To find out more about our Patreon and the perks with each tier, visit www.patreon.com/Tarodcast. We've got it all laid out for you. Also, we've got a merchandise store. Pick up some tees, hoodies, leggings, and more at forevercertain.redbubble.com. All proceeds go right back into the Tarodcast podcast and allow us to keep making high quality content for people just like you. For our listeners out there who would like to support us in a non-monetary way, we'd love that too. Share our show with people you know. Also, share us on your social media. And if your favorite Tarodcast streaming service allows you to rate and review our show and you're loving what you're hearing, take some time and leave us a 5-star review. Ratings and reviews are what set us apart from other podcasts, and also helps us to recommend our podcast to other listeners we otherwise wouldn't have the opportunity to reach. Lastly, if you'd like to reach out to us directly, email us at tarodcast@CRTN-T.com. That's tarodcast@CRTN-T.com. All of this information can always be found in our episode notes, so make sure to check there if you forget any of the information we just went over. Once again, thank you all so much, and let's get back to the program. All right, y'all. Welcome back to Tarodcast. Again, I'm your host, Tarod Rashan, and we are going to dive back into the topic. So, let's talk a little bit more about polyamory, because a lot of people think that these are just people out here who are just going out and having sex with other people and, having orgies, or, they're swingers and things like that. And they just don't care. And from what I have been able to learn about people who are in polyamorous relationships is that there is a lot more that goes into it than what people are able to understand on the surface, because it's all about mastering vulnerability and communication. There's no room for keeping secrets. It's all about building and honoring and exchanging energy within oneself and within your partner, and also within any potential partner that is outside of the two people. And so because of that, because the focus is on building, honoring, and exchanging that energy, what I have been able to learn is that a lot more people are more selective with whom they decide to give their energy to and give their time to. But because of that, the way that they are able to communicate with one another, the two people in the main relationship, the way that they're able to communicate with one another, and the way that they trust one another, and they have that loyalty towards one another, that is something that, upon just looking at that, realizing that it can't be broken. It's not something that has any limit. It goes beyond expectations, because you are looking at this person as a full person, and you understand that they have needs and they have desires, and because they have chosen you, they trust you with those things, and they also trust that you as a person will allow them that same ability to be those things for you in the ways that they can be. But also, they have grown to understand that because there are so many different people who exist in this world and so many different energies to interact with, they also understand that when it comes to an energy that you are able to connect with in a way that is completely separate, it has its own lane. When it comes to that type of energy, they are all for you experiencing that, just like you are all for them experiencing that. And one of the things that separates this is the fact that, in many traditional relationships, especially on the male side, a lot of us men, we tie our vulnerability with our sex ability, with our, with how we are and what we do during sexual interactions. And so the thought of our women being with another man or another woman that provides them with an energy or provides them with an experience that, could potentially rival ours, we lose control and we unravel at the seams because of that. Whereas in a polyamorous relationship, from the male-female perspective, it is understanding and giving your partner the autonomy to make their own decisions and to, go forth and exchange these types of energies with people that are worthy of these types of experiences. Because again, you have to know people. You have to understand who you are. You have to be confident in yourself and know what you will allow and what you will not allow. Because a lot of people think that it's just about going and being with whomever, and it's in the polyamory sense, as far as what I've been able to learn about it, it's not that. It's about being as selective as possible, being able to in essence go with the flow, but also understanding which flow you need to go with in order to experience the experience that you are seeking out, if it's an experience that's outside of your partner. And so, just again, building, honoring, and exchanging energies with those that give you that permission, and you give them permission to be your most vulnerable self, to be your most true self, to be in a moment that will allow you to fully let go and to learn and to gain and to exchange and to receive. And it's just this constant and consistent cycle of energy that's just allowing you and the person that you discover to have that exchange, and you both are gaining from it. It as far as what I'm able to see, it creates bonds and allows trust and loyalty to be at the center, just like the main relationship of it, and one of the things that I have heard from people who are, kind of tiptoeing with the idea of polyamory is that, they don't want to be the person who is introduced. They want to be a part of the main relationship. And I understand that, and when it comes to, just that way of thinking, understanding, and being part of something that's established, it's like it gives you that security. So that way, when it comes to, potentially bringing someone else in, you don't necessarily have to worry about being the odd man or the odd woman out. And again, that's one of those things where, of course I get it because it's a security thing. Not too many people are okay with being the other person or being the person that's being introduced. I understand that, and if you're going to approach it from that standpoint, then you also have to, understand that your relationship needs to have any and all things worked out, because bringing another person into a relationship, it's not something that, it's not always plug and play. And so you really have to understand one another and be open to understanding and integrating another person into that type of relationship, if that's what you want to pursue. And, again, it can be very, very beneficial because they may, this other person may bring energies, they may bring experience, they may bring wisdom, or they may bring, things that you all haven't tried yet, that may benefit, the entire relationship. And that is something that, again, you have to be open and you have to understand yourself. You have to understand your partner. You have to be your own perfect 10. You have to, because, this is something that at the center of all of it, you are essentially creating a village amongst yourselves where you have the atmosphere that allows you to be fully who you are and to express yourself and to be comfortable in this situation. And it's not something that should or can be taken lightly, because again, these are people with their own feelings, with their own thoughts, with their own experiences outside of yours. And so you have to have mastered the ability to be open and to be vulnerable and to communicate. You absolutely have to have mastered that, because if you don't, then you are going to run into a lot of issues and the whole thing is going to crumble, and you may end up losing more people, than what you probably thought that you'd end up losing. Because again, you really have to be, at a point where you are good with who you are and you are able to learn and to accept when you're wrong or if you're not in the right. Because, just because you're not in the right doesn't mean you're wrong. It's just that maybe you're not in the right. But, understanding that and really taking time to just know what that means. Because, a lot of people think that, polyamory is just as simple as going out, going to the mall or going to the club and picking up someone, and then bringing them back for a threesome. Nah, that's not it. That's a fantasy. It's a lot of people's fantasy. Well, a lot of men's fantasy because it's two women, but, anyway, it's not as simple as that. Because you are making a conscious effort to learn about a new person and allow them to learn you, to the point where being in each other's presence is gratifying and it is momentous. It means something. It's worth something. It builds on what is established, and you all are building together. That is what it is. It's not just the simple fantasy of having a threesome, and being in a polyamorous relationship means that, you are open to loving freely, not just loving someone that you meet, but also loving someone that your partner meets as well. Because again, The level of communication, the level of trust and loyalty that comes with that means that you trust your partner enough to know the kind of energy that they require and the kind of things that they need, and trusting them that if they were to also find another person, that they would be bringing someone of the same or even of a higher caliber to help enhance what's already been established. See, that's the thing. A lot of people don't understand that when it comes to polyamory, it's not about just getting somebody random. It's not about fulfilling a threesome or a foursome fantasy. It's not about being a voyeur and watching your partner, just have sex with random people, or your partner watching you have sex with random people. No, it's an actual emotional investment into another person. And because it's an emotional investment into another person, there are stakes that are involved. There is a lot more that goes into making that work and making that successful. It's not something that's fleeting. And in many ways, it's something that ends up being long term. And because it's long term, you have the ability to create bonds, and you allow trust and loyalty to be at the center of it all. You're sharing everything about one another with one another, including the parts of ourselves that connect to others. Just really, really understanding that. Oftentimes we don't really take the time to think about our relationships because it's easier to just go with what we expect our partners to be, what we expect them to do. And when it comes to sharing everything, this means the deepest, darkest, pitch black parts of ourselves that so many people don't know about us. And so when we actually master that in our regular relationships, for those who are looking into polyamory, this is also providing an avenue for that person or those people you're bringing in to do the same thing with you. You're building one another up. You're creating that atmosphere that encourages you all to be who you are. And there is no rubric that determines the level of love and acceptance and trust and loyalty that you give to one another, because it's all just free flowing. It's all fluid. And you give yourself the opportunity to love someone in a completely different way, And again, this takes nothing away from your partner. Again, you all are both perfect 10s to yourselves and one another. You understand that you are the rock. You are the foundation for one another, because you all found each other first. But at the same time, this love that you have, you've also given each other permission to share with other people. And if that other person that you're sharing it with, if they're able to do that in return, then it becomes something that allows everyone to love and to be loved. My stomach is growling, and I just ate. Oh my God. I'm sorry, y'all. But yeah, it allows you to love and to be loved in different ways, because again, this is another person with their own experience, with their own features, with their own body, with their own mind, and being able to exchange those pieces of yourself with that person, and also to allow them to do the same. And then if you get to the point where you actually incorporate them into a relationship with you and your main partner, it is something that could be so beautiful. I actually see it. And this is me having to abandon a lot of the traditional ways that I was brought up into thinking. I see that it could be so beautiful, because again, this is also the potential start of a village of people that they all share something in common. They share a common loyalty, a common love, a common trust. So many different things that are the foundation for many, many beneficial ventures. They are sharing those things with one another. And they're doing so in a way where when it comes to the love and the admiration and the respect that they show towards one another, they're able to do that freely without anyone feeling like they are left out or anyone feeling like they are not getting what they require, because they're open and they trust that as they engage with one another in this relationship, as they continue to incorporate one another into the ever-growing facets of this relationship, they're able to, really, really understand that as people, we all have something we can give. And they're deciding that in this type of environment, in this relationship, we want to give the best parts of ourselves, not only to one another, but to the people that understand who we are and understand that we are trying to do this and share this with someone who can also do the same for us. And when you meet someone, you meet some people that are able to do that, it continues to multiply, And so, when it comes for polyamorous relationships, I'm all for it. If that works for you, if that is something that you want to explore, I am all for it. Just make sure that you are truly ready, because all of that regular traditional stuff that we all know and try to hold on to, it's not going to work. It's not going to fly. It's not. So for those of you who are thinking about polyamorous relationships, remember, it's all about communication. You have to communicate. So with that being said, y'all, I just wanted to reiterate the fact that when I think about polyamorous relationships, again, it involves mastering so many aspects of yourself: communication, vulnerability, trust, loyalty. It's not about just going out here and finding someone that you can sleep with. It's not the same thing, because it also involves the emotional investment into another person. And trusting that this person that you are also deciding to invest yourself into will also be able to and be comfortable with investing themselves into you as well as your partner. And so when you've been able to master that, when you've been able to understand and value that, I feel like that's when a polyamorous relationship can work, because it doesn't feel like anybody is being cheated on. It doesn't feel like anybody is being neglected. It doesn't feel like anyone is being left out. Everyone is able to love equally and be loved equally. And honestly, so many polyamorous relationships already have that mastered, and so many traditional relationships don't. And that's the sad part. That's the sad part, because it's only two people in that relationship, And so when it comes to polyamory, again, for those of you who want to go forth and see what that life is about, make sure that if you decide to take that step, if you're with someone or if you're planning on being with someone, you understand one another, you know one another, you understand and trust in one another to the point where nothing is off limits. Okay? So y'all, that's our show. You all know how to find us and how to support us. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review and also take the conversation to our throne room. The links, just like everything else, are in our show notes. You all, wherever you are, whomever you are, I want to always encourage you to be more introspective and vulnerable with yourself. Know who you are, trust in who you are, love who you are. And if you're in a polyamorous relationship, continue to love one another equally, all the same. But y'all, thank you so much for lending me your time, your ear, and your open mind. I've been your host, Tarod Rashan. This has been another episode of Tarodcast. I hope that this episode inspires you to have conversations that maybe you didn't think about having. I hope that it allows you to think about things in a way that you didn't think about. But ultimately, I hope that with this episode coming to a close, that you make every effort to find and keep your peace. Till next time.